Dear Lord, the battles we go through life.
Dear Lord, the battles go through life.
We ask for a chance is fair.
We ask for a chance is fair.
Chance to equal our stripes.
Chance to equal our stripes.
Chance to do it there.
Chance to do it there.
We should win.
We should win.
Let it be by the code.
Let it be by the code.
Faith and honor held high.
Faith and honor held high.
We should lose.
We should lose.
Stand by the road.
Stand by the road.
Cheers, the winners go by.
Cheers, the winners go by.
Day by day.
Day by day.
We get better and better.
We get better and better.
Till we can't beat beat.
We can't beat beat.
Boom, beat, beat.
Boom.
All right, fellas, welcome to OMFL Game of the Week for Week 6. I'm a little behind the schedule here. A lot of games have already been played, so we're going to kind of pick from what's left. But luckily for us, there's actually a really good game that's left to be able to be picked from. So the Broncos and the Chargers going to be knocking it out this week. This game hasn't even been scheduled, so I'm hoping that it does get played. You guys are past your 24 hours, so shame on you for not getting that scheduled. But this should be a really good game between Denver and the Chargers. Both teams are finding their footing for this season, and the Broncos are really playing really well. The 49ers and the Bills are left, but look for the Bills to really dominate that game. The Browns and the Titans is actually going to be a CPU game since the Titans are out of town for a little bit. The Panthers and the Saints is a little bit of a letdown as both those teams are struggling. The Saints are still looking for their first win. The Steelers and the Dolphins is a really intriguing matchup. We never hear from W. Dunn, but he's got his team red hot. I think he's sitting at 3-2 this season after a sim loss last week. So really his team is playing much better than the record shows. And then Arrow and the Steelers have a great defense and a great offense. His team is really loaded, and that team is playing really good. The Chiefs are going to travel to visit the loaded Raiders, who are playing really well this season. And then finally we get to the game of the week, and that's going to be the Falcons, who are undefeated, traveling to face the Seahawks, who've only lost one game. Let's take a quicker look at this game as D. Wayne had his Falcons red hot, and Too Slick is actually playing really well. Even though we don't hear a whole lot from either one of these guys, they're pretty quiet fellows. They got their teams rocking and rolling right now. This is going to be a game that faces the number 2 offense in the Atlanta Falcons, who's number 2 in the entire league, right behind the Bears, and undefeated. I lied. I'm sorry. They're 4-1. I didn't realize that. I thought that they had won this last week, and they are sitting at 4-1. They are number 2 in the league standing. 1,298 yards passing, 688 yards rushing, 34.6 points per game, and plays for a crazy offensive team. And then the Seahawks are number 4 in defense, only 1,345 yards total given up, 1,018 through the air, only 327 yards to the rush. They only gave up 109 points total, which is a lot of points, but a lot of teams are playing from behind. This team has crazy sacks, 10 sacks already, 4 forced fumbles, and 5 interceptions. Taking a look at a couple of stats here. Falcons are all about that offense as Matt Ryan is playing unbelievably. 12 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 77% completion percentage for a 131.7 rating. He's got 1,300 yards already, no interceptions is unbelievable. I thought for sure he'd throw his first pick last week. This is going to be another challenge against that vaunted number 4 Seahawks defense. Devontae Freeman is playing really well, 5.3 average, but so is Coleman at 5.2. That offensive line is just opening up holes, but Freeman catches up with Coleman from last week. He gets 3 touchdowns last week. Now both of these running backs have 4 apiece. And then, of course, the receiving is all about Julio Jones. 36 receptions, 417 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's averaging 83.5 yards per game. Jacob Tammy's right behind him at 24 catches. You kind of want to see some of these other guys get some catches here. But overall, Jones is the top guy. Let's take a look at their defense. Canu Neal is really the guy to look at from Florida. He's got 32 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions. The guy's playing exceptional back there. And then Craig Robertson that came over from the Saints trade, 21 tackles, 6 tackles for loss. No interceptions and no sacks yet, but the guy tackles everything in sight. And that defense actually plays extremely well. Let's run over and look at the Seahawks before we make our pick real quick. We're going to start with their defense because that's where they're strong. They're number 4 in the whole entire league. Everybody is a tackling machine on this team. Wagner leading the way with 31. McCam is right behind him with 27. tons of tackles for loss. Watch this. When you hit tackles for loss, a whole crop load of them come up. Sherman, Simon, Averill, Reuben, Chancellor, Lane, Reed. There's a ton of guys on that tackles for loss list, which just means that guys are just flying to the ball and making plays. And the sacks, Jaron Reed from Alabama, the rookie defensive tackle, has got 4.5 sacks. I'd love to know if he is using him, because that just makes that defensive line, who's already really stout, even better. Interceptions, there's 5 for this team. Wagner is really leading the way, not only in tackles, but also in interceptions. He's got 2. Wright's got 1. Simon from LSU's got 1. And Chancellor's got 1. This team makes plays. They've got 3 defensive touchdowns on the year already. They flatten the ball, and they make tons of plays. Now let's look at their offense. Of course, it's being led by Russell Wilson, who's got 68% completion percentage, which is really well. 9 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, only 1,163 yards, a quarterback rating of 107.4. He's playing really good. Not exceptional, not the level that Matt Ryan is playing, but he is playing really, really well. The rushing is where they struggle. 57 for 188 for Rawls, and Pros has 130 on 24 carries. He's averaging 5.4 yards a carry, but it isn't equaling a whole lot of production because he's not getting the ball a whole lot. Only 2 touchdowns from their rushing attack. In the receiving, it's all about Paul Richardson. The second-year player from Colorado's got 23 catches for 268 yards. He's only got 1 touchdown, where Jimmy Graham's got 2, 184 yards. He's only averaging 9.2 yards a carry. Doug Baldwin and Curse are the 2 big play guys here. 18 and 14 catches for 292 yards for both of them. 3 touchdowns for Baldwin and 2 for Curse. These are your big playmakers that he's going to be looking for the entire time. So there you have it. It's going to be the number 4 defense versus the number 2 offense in the entire league. And since it's going to be at home for the Seahawks, I'm going to take the Falcons, because I picked against the Falcons, or picked with the Falcons last week, and I lost. So you know what? I think he's going to bounce back. Too Slick is a very good player, but the Falcons really have their team rolling, and they have an exceptional offense. It's going to be strength versus strength here, but give me the Atlanta Falcons and Matt Ryan to not throw a pick, even on the road. He's going to throw 2 touchdowns. Look for that offensive rushing attack to really take over. Both of those guys are averaging over 5 yards a carry. Give me the Atlanta Falcons in a 34-21 stomping of the Seattle Seahawks at home. So there you have it. That's your game of the week for week 6. Please make sure you check out the new chat program that is up. The website's completely up to date. The Daddy League site is completely up to date. So lots of good things are happening. Check it out. We will see you on the other end. Peace out.